Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kelber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Silverline Silver Sunday on this October 20th, 2024. I am your host, I am Roland Man, and I'm joined by the usual Mr. Tom Mason, who was once Charles Marshall's editor. What's up, Tom?
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all.
And we have a drop-in guest tonight as well. She just popped in, Miss Barb Kalberg, creator of Divinity.
Hi there, everybody. I'm also familiar with Charles,
who was also the inker of some of the work that Charles did.
That's right. That's right.
And of course our guest. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
She's got the old issues there. That's even the foil version. Hold on, let me find
foil
it.
version. Yeah,
that's
it's
even
the
the foil version. Look at that.
The numbered foil version.
Yes,
it's got the number.
Wow. How far back in the back issue boxes did you have to dig to get that?
No, it's in a binder for that particular year. I have everything I do in binders for the year that I work on them.
Oh my gosh, too organized for me.
That is way organized.
And of course,
I'm outclassed.
And of course, the man of the hour, Mr. Charles Marshall himself. Say hi, Charles.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. We are excited to, we're going to ask you all kind of questions. We chatted so much up front, I forgot to prep you about like all the stuff.
Thanks.
So, so I figured you could just roll. You're from Memphis. You can just roll with it. You guys roll with everything, right?
That's right. Yeah,
do you remember the time I sent you a crying towel?
I don't remember what I had for breakfast, Roland. So I'm not gonna go back.
Roland never forgets his crying towel.
Yeah.
So, all right.
2008 when the Tigers lost.
There sounds like a story behind that.
Yeah. So Charles is a Memphis fan, and of course I'm a Razorback fan, and so we don't play Memphis a lot, but
Yeah.
there was one year Memphis was really good, and Arkansas played them and beat them. And so I mailed Charles a towel. It was just a little hand towel, and it just said crying
okay. Yeah, I
foul.
do remember that now. This is over. Where's the off button?
You're done, right?
Is this pro bowling or rugby?
Right, both.
Oh man,
It's rugby bowling. As a reminder, everyone, we've still got a well, I don't have the page up. We've still got a crowdfunder going. The last I saw it, oh wait, here it is. Last I said, we were about 60. It's not opening for me now. 60-something% done to the goal. We've got about 2 days left to go. So and it's not opening. So you guys pop on over to, okay, we're 68% there. We got 2 days to go. It ends on the 22nd, which is 2 days from now. So there you go. Somebody's already got, Barb did that. Thank you, Barb. Barb's got my back. So 2 days to go. It's 68% there. So that means it's just a little over 30% we need to get there. Y'all, there's a bunch of original art. I did notice that some of it went yesterday. There's still a bunch of original art. Get on over there and help out John Crowther and the Teen Beetle crew, and let's bring this thing to life here. So that is Teen Beetle 1 through 3. This completes the story, so you'll get the entire arc at that point in time. So jump on over there. It's you can find it at well, there's the link right there. Or if you're listening to this and you don't have a way to jot this down, just remember SilverlineComicsCrowdfunder.com. And that will take you right there. So that's it for business. Tom, you went to New York Comic Con this past few days, didn't you?
I did go to New York Comic Con, and I had a great time. I apparently I missed the fight.
I was just going to ask you, did you see the fist fight?
No,
wait. Who fought? I missed that.
Apparently. So they were giving out Spawn cover variant by Peach Momoko.
Oh no!
And it's limited to 200 copies or whatever, and it's $40 unsigned, $60 signed, or whatever the price range is. And a bunch of retailers tried to sneak in line because retailers weren't allowed to get it. It's for fans, but retailers apparently finagled some badges that made them pretend like they were fans and got in line. And I'm not sure of how it broke out, but there was apparently a fist fight between 2 or more people.
Really?
Over a comic book variant.
It's like Black Friday.
Right, which is like, and it's a $40 comic, which is fine, or a $60 comic, which is fine.
Right.
And it'll probably be worth $300 or $400 or whatever. And that's what people are fist fighting about, which that part seems ridiculous to me.
That's crazy.
That
is crazy.
So I missed that, and I would have paid any amount of money.
Tom would have been there. Tom would have been there with his phone.
I would have paid variant prices to have seen 2 people fighting over a comic book. That would have been. And also, I think I only speak for myself, but if I'd created a comic book that had 2 people fist fighting over it, I would feel proud. I would feel like I had done.
Oh yeah.
I had done my job.
Badge of honor.
Right. I would
have
wear
to
that.
agree with that. Yeah.
Right.
I
Come and read the comic that Tom created that people are fist fighting all about all over town. I would want that.
And I would be really quick to create another limited edition.
Oh my God, yes. I would have the limited fist fight edition. Right. So people could
blood splatters on it, right?
Right. And I would do a variant cover. And I would so it's a really great show. It's very different from San Diego.
Yeah.
Because it's on the Javits Center is really weirdly designed. It's not as linear as the San Diego Convention Center is. But Artist Alley is huge. Like it's easily 3 to 4 times the size of San Diego's Artist Alley. A lot of good people are there. A lot of people who never come to the San Diego show are there. And there weren't as many movie studio stuff there, but there was a lot. There's a lot of anime. There's a lot of manga. There's not as many cosplayers, so there's not as many costume people.
Yeah.
There are same number of book publishers that show up. They have a lot of book signings. The crowd control is really done well. It's never as choked as the aisles in San Diego are.
Yeah.
And the difference is really that there's not a lot of street activity. Like in San Diego, it spills out into the street.
Spills out.
Because the Comic-Con basically takes over the town.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in New York, you're just like another bunch of idiots who came to town, and they don't really care. And so
So
it doesn't.
they don't raise their prices to $5 for a banana.
No, because it's already $5. And so because it's New York prices. I was at a place that had $19 scrambled eggs, and so
Oh my
that's
gosh.
so and you would think, oh, that's convention pricing. It's like no, that's
Regular prices.
regular New York pricing, and so that doesn't really spill out into the street. There's no street activity or whatever. They're not. It's better than in the past, but there's still not a lot of good places to eat, or like in San Diego, you see somebody at the show. It's like, let's get lunch. You can walk across the street. There's a ton of places to get lunch.
Yeah.
Not so much at the New York show, but the New York show has better food in their food court.
Ah.
And so
Yeah.
it's as good as any. It's not great food, but it's way better than San Diego food, and it's on a level with like good shopping mall food.
Yeah.
So that's good, and the prices are not gougy like they are at San Diego's food courts. I found the people. I think New York people get a bad rap for sort of an attitude that you might perceive that they have. I didn't see that in the convention center.
That's good.
Everybody was good. It was on their best behavior.
Except for the guys fighting over the
Except for the
comics.
guys fighting for the comics. But I don't think that's New York, though. I think that's
That's
kind
right.
of fight's going to happen anywhere.
Yeah.
And I saw there's a couple of weird booths that I posted on Facebook. There's a Ryobi Tools booth that was there, which I found odd. But they had a demonstration of glass etching where they were selling tools where you could do your own glass etching, which again I thought was odd for a comic show.
So
I figured it'd be chainsaws, you know.
Was State Farm there?
No, State Farm wasn't there. eBay was there.
Wow. So I saw State Farm at a Wizard World in Nashville. This is several years ago, obviously, but I saw State Farm set up at a Wizard World. I'm like, who comes here to get insurance?
Right. That's well, Jake from State Farm, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
And there was a booth that was selling Jello shots.
Interesting.
And so 21 and only, 21 and up. I mean, so
did they have a tattoo artist row?
No, I didn't see that.
MegaCon has a tattoo artist row. There's like a dozen chairs laid out, and you just go in and pick your tattoo artist, and you can get a tattoo while at MegaCon.
That seems awesome.
Very Florida.
Yeah, it is. Also, kind of a state prison thing.
That's right.
And so the weather was great. It's a perfect New York fall. No rain. Really good fall weather. I don't think it got as many people as San Diego does. So I don't think it was 100. I'd be surprised if someone says it's 120,000 people. But it is scattered on like 4 different levels.
Yeah.
And getting into the show was easy. I went with my sister. We got there about half an hour after it opened, and we had pro badges, so we just breezed right in. It's like there was no line for us.
Nice.
And so I thought the crowd control stuff was really well handled.
And it's like a 4-day show also, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I consider San Diego a 5-day show. So, but yeah, it's a 4-day show. It ended today. I was not in there today.
So we'll get pictures from you next week, and we'll get like a part 2 report. But did you get to see 2 of our buddies? You get to see JC Vaughn, and did you get to meet Henri?
So I did a couple of things. I ran into Thomas Derenek.
Oh, neat! Oh, cool!
And he showed me the secret cover that he did for you.
Yeah,
because I said I wouldn't tell you. So and oh man, he had some great stuff at his table too.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about going to Artist Alley is like to see the stuff that people are doing not on assignment, that they're doing for fun to sell.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people. I have a hard time doing a commission because I can't think of the thing that's good that I want somebody to draw for me.
Yeah.
But I love to flip through the portfolio and go, oh, that's what I want.
Right. Yeah.
And so he had a great display. I ran into JC Vaughn twice. I had dinner with him Wednesday night before the show. And then I ran into him on the floor Thursday because he was coming in to talk to the people at the Atlas Seaboard booth.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then
Seaboard had a booth set up?
Who did?
Atlas had a booth set up.
They had a bunch of the old Atlas people. Jeff Roven was there.
That's right, because they're getting
And-
ready to do a bunch of toys.
They got a deal. They got an
Yeah.
exclusive deal with Walmart for toys. They got a movie deal with Devilina. They got a couple other things.
Wow.
Cooking. They had the original at the booth. They had the original character designs for the Scorpion by Alex Toth.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Which I had not known that he did those.
No.
And then I ran into Henri, and when I say that, I didn't run into him. I was walking across the convention floor, and Henri recognizes me from the show.
Really?
And I hear this, hey, hey, hey. and I look over, and there's this dude pointing at me, and I go, oh, yeah, I know who that guy is. So
Yeah.
I went over to Henri. We had a good chat for like 15, 20 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
And then I ran into Heidi McDonald from
Nice.
Comics
Good
Beat.
Yep. Yep.
While I was talking to a
Good
former
friend.
DC editor or writer, Ivan Cohen, and we talked baseball playoffs.
Okay.
So I went to Comic-Con and I talked about baseball.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And my sister met a couple of really good authors that she loves, R.A. Salvatore and Grady Hendrix, and just a really good time.
That sounds good. That's a really good time is what a Comic-Con should be, right?
Yeah. Because the thing is, I never understand these people who get angry at shows or get frustrated or depressed or whatever. You make your own show. You make your own fun.
Yeah.
And so that's
100%.
That's what I do. And I go to see what cool stuff people are working on. And I always come out of the show going, I got to make more comics.
Right.
You
know what? I'm with you. I think Comic-Cons are great for creative batteries.
Right.
I think they're really good. You can go there and you come out feeling like, oh, I'm so energized. Where's me a keyboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one booth. I think it's Bandai. They had well, we would call them we of a certain age would call them bubblegum machines.
Right.
But they're not. They're bigger and they're not metal. They're all plastic now. And you would buy some tokens and you would put them in the vending machine and you would win like a plastic Godzilla or some anime character or whatever. And they had like 150 of these things in their booth, and they were packed. And I went
feeding them tokens.
Feeding the tokens. I went 3 times. I wanted to get an anime shark, and I wanted to get an anime ghost, and I wanted to get a Godzilla, and I wanted to get
Top standing up. Hey kid, I'll give you $5 for your ghost.
That's right. How'd you get that ghost? Where'd you get that?
I fed the thing tokens and I can't get one.
Yeah,
And
I'm such a nut for this kind of stuff that they had display cases for some of the things that you could get, and I would call over one of the booth workers and I would say, "Machine is that in?" And I lead me to it.
Right.
So,
I'm only going to feed that one tokens.
That's right. Because I've been all over the place. I can't find it, and then of course they point to the one that's right in front of me. It's like that's that one, old man.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
All right,
it's a great show.
That sounds exciting. Make sure you and I we'll get some pictures and we'll show those.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Show those next week. But for now, let's move on to Charles. Charles, I've got a couple of questions that I kind of like to launch in with, just to kind of set folks up. And the first one I will ask you is, of course, we want to know your origin story, right? You know, how did you get into comics and all that kind of stuff? So the first question I like to ask is, what is the first comic that you remember reading?
I can't remember ever not reading comics, but I'm sure that it was one of the old Justice League or Avengers.
Okay.
When you had limited disposable income, you were going for the team books.
Yeah.
Felt like you got a little bit more bang for your buck. And they had those big 80-page specials, 100-page specials. And that's what I lived for. So it was probably a Justice League. I mean, when I talked to Roland earlier this week, and I said we had a leaky roof. And I got up there and I saw that it had just missed all the comic books, which I hadn't touched in years and years and years. So I pulled them all out. I pulled out all the boxes and boxes of unopened samples I had in the closet, and just started selling them on eBay last year. And,
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. A guy offered me $1,000 if I would sign a Mortal Kombat holographic in my blood. I said, no, I'll sign it in your blood, but he was into rare books. He said, there can't be any.
I might have been going. Where would you like it signed?
That's right.
I had to get it. No, if it was just my blood, maybe, but I had to get the artist to sign it. I had to get it certificated. I said, man, I don't need $1,000 that bad. but yeah,
I don't know. I would wait till I cut myself.
Yeah,
like by accident, like making dinner or whatever, because I always do that, and I would just say, I can work this. I can make this work.
I can work this. I can work with this cut.
That's right.
I don't know. No, it was almost a disaster, but because I had given away books. I was never really a collector. I was more just a reader, but I did bag them up, and I was really smart enough to do that. So, and now when as you get older, you accumulate so much stuff, and then you're just ready to start.
You start looking at them as things, right?
That's where I'm at.
Things.
Declutter.
And I moved to digital comics about the time that they started offering it, just because I never could find books I wanted. I'd buy books multiple times. I had trade paperbacks of the same books I had somewhere that I just couldn't find. So.
The great thing about with digital comics is because I get my stuff from Amazon, and they remind me that I've already bought it.
Right.
Yes.
So it's like having somebody with you in the comic book store going, "No, Tom,
you got that one.
You got that one." So
well, and I've recently added. I think Tommy uses this one. I recently added to my phone the app CLZ. Now I do not have all of my comics on there yet. But I went ahead and I started putting, because my buying habits these days are mostly like 80s independent stuff. And so I've started adding the first ones I added, it was the Atlas Seaboard stuff, right? I added all that because I'm not too many shy of a full run of Atlas. But there's the things like the Kamiko stuff, the first comic stuff. I got to add all that because I can't tell you how many copies of the first, how many multiples I have of the first 10 issues of Elementals. Like, I think I have number 2, but it's only 50 cents. So I'm going to buy it again, right? 50 cents. I come back and I was like, oh, I do have a copy. I have 3 copies actually. So, yeah. I'll eventually, what I'm going to do, I've decided I'm going to put together little second sets, and I'm just going to start giving them away as gifts.
Right.
There you go.
So early DC is what kind of got you. What comic, or if you can remember, what comic was it that you read that made you say, this is what I want to do? This comic is so cool. I want to go make some of this stuff myself.
I don't know if it was a comic as much as it was. I was really inspired by Jim Shooter's story. The whole, as a teenager, selling stories to DC, and then them hiring him, and he was supporting the family in New York, writing comics as a teenager. I said, man, that's something I felt like I could do. I mean, and so I started, I was sitting as a I guess probably 16, 17-year-old. I started sending ideas straight to him.
Really?
And you got the standard rejection, but he was great about adding a note every single time almost. And as I kept doing it, I do it like at least once every couple of months. The notes got a little bit longer, a little bit more encouraging. I was sending them to other people too, but he was the one that I remember being the most encouraging about, hey, this one's pretty good. You ought to think about this, or, was never close to a sale. And if, there's no telling how badly I would have shit the bed if they had bought one, bought something and, at that age, I probably would have just, completely choked. But it was great, to get that feedback early on. Now, and later, as I got more experience and actually had some books published, I couldn't get anything other than a rejection, just a form rejection. They just quit, and now I don't even think you can't even submit now.
You can't submit to Marvel and DC today.
No.
No.
That's
You get
certainly
invited.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's certainly a big change from the days when we were there. Is it?
No, and I tell you, I later on I got more and more elaborate with my submissions. I'd send a packet with a pizza to an editor. I remember one idea I had. It was a Spider-Man story, a one shot, and it was going to be the Blob versus Juggernaut versus Spider-Man in a big giant oversized book, like a printed, like oversized.
Oh yeah.
So I went to this blueprint company and had my cover letter printed out on a giant 8 by 10 foot thing, made an envelope for it, and found this giant paper clip and sent my proposal. That was like, it was the craziest thing. I wish I'd taken a picture of it because it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Nothing, no response whatsoever.
Wow, not even a
form.
Not even your idea sucks, but your proposal was kind of clever.
Follow up with the guy, and he said, "Oh yeah, the paperclip was cool."
The paperclip.
Was cool.
Was this Danny Fingerow? Oh, no names.
It was way back.
Okay.
I mean, this was 80, early 80s, I guess. So,
oh, okay. I don't think that would have been Danny yet.
I felt like there was, I think I really enjoyed the process of trying to sell ideas. I mean, I think that was what really.
Yeah.
So it sounds like marketing.
Yeah,
it is marketing.
Oddly enough,
right?
Right.
Yeah,
You're marketing yourself.
There you go.
Well, oddly enough, we know a little something about Charles that many of you might not know. Charles spent much of his life working in advertising and in marketing.
Yeah, while I was working for doing most of the work I did, Planet of the Apes and Mortal Kombat, I was also working at an ad agency as a creative director.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where you were when you and I met.
Yeah. It was great because I was sitting at a desk with a computer, but I wasn't working 40 hours a week. I was working 15 or 20 hours a week, and the rest of the time I was trying to do the comic book stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a good
I want that sweet gig.
I know, right?
It was a sweet gig.
I want that job.
Yeah.
And then right when Malibu's kind of fizzled out and Mark went to Marvel.
Yeah.
He gave me my first Marvel assignment. But I had just started one of the guys I worked with, we started our own agency. And I was so busy, and it was just crazy. I just crapped the bed on this assignment. I mean, I was like, it was bad. It was just bad. And then I just couldn't even go back and ask for more because I was so busy, and just never had a chance to get back into it. I mean, I loved it. I loved working in comics, but I couldn't really, I felt like, God, here's an opportunity. I got a guy at Marvel who I've worked with for, a few years.
Yeah.
He knows what I can do. And we were talking about stuff for me. And I just ran out. I couldn't do it. I just ran out of time.
But the thing is, sorry, Roland. I didn't
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But the thing is that, I mean, except for the crap in the bed part, is that is really a great way to sort of break into comics. Is that you had a career with an independent publisher like Malibu, that your editor after me was Mark Panicia.
Right.
And then when Malibu got sold to Marvel and Mark transitioned to working for Marvel, he remembered one of his favorite writers, Charles, and said, "Hey, listen, I'm in the room now.
Yep.
I can get you in the door." And that kind of networking is really the way that it works.
Yep.
That is how you would make it work. And if I had trusted comics more than I trusted the business that I started, I guess, I think I could have made it work. but I don't know. It's
Yeah.
still a very volatile business.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I've
It
had-
absolutely is.
I've had editors call me 10, 20 years after I last worked with them and said, I remember how working with you was so great. Would you like to do a project? I'm like, oh, yeah.
oh, I still talk to him. I mean, I've talked to Mark, several times. I actually went up and met with him. My company had a big, we were doing a lot of app development, a lot of internet work, and dev work. And I was just, where I saw the opportunity for Marvel was, their website was just dead. It was just a static.
Yeah.
All the banners were static. So I went out, I had my team animate all the banners, sound, animation, and just showed them to them side by side. I said, here's what you've got up right now. Now here's one where the Hulk stomps the shit out of the band, all the type on the banner. I mean, can you not see how that? And he's going, yeah, man, that's so much cooler. I said, who I talked to about that? I don't know. We built an app where you could upload your picture and it would turn you into the Hulk, like animated you turn green and get big. It was cool. I mean, but we couldn't find the right people to do it.
Like corporate structure.
Like, they're all like in their little. I remember meeting with him in his little 4x4 office that he shared with 3 other people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was like, and he's he was like doing well there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a big deal.
Yeah, he is.
He's now, I don't know what the official title is, but he's like a senior editor.
Yeah,
Right.
no, he's done great, and he's always been super. But we just couldn't figure out a way. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I felt like I had more value as that kind of resource than I did as a comic book writer at that time, and now kind of flipped back and said, I'd really like to do some comic book writing.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking to him about, but I don't know.
Well, let's rewind just a little bit. So,
Sure.
what was the first comic that you ever had published as a writer? What's the first one you did?
Oh, this is going to be embarrassing. It was called Mr. Cream Puff.
Mr. Cream Puff. Okay.
It was right when it was my first job out of college was for FedEx. It was in a room full of recent college graduates, and we were doing technical editing, which was basically proofreading parts manuals. And it was the most brain dead thing you've ever been a part of. So we were just talking all the time. And there's this one guy who was in the room that we had dubbed Mr. Cream Puff. He was just kind of just a squishy, but just a pushover kind of guy. So I created this. I drew this. I'm not an artist by any means, but I drew this picture of a giant 10-foot cream puff superhero, and we just were kind of workshopping it in the room. And this was about the time Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comes out, and man, publishers are looking everywhere for anything. So I say, hell, I'm send it out as a proposal, get it bought off on. And what I wrote, I plotted out 2 years, wrote like 6 issues.
Wow.
Nothing's happened with it yet. I mean, and it was this elaborate, it's going to sound crazy, but it was a elaborate parody of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing with a giant 10-foot cream puff as the Swamp Thing character. And a company called Blackthorn.
That's Steve Shanis.
Steve Shanis.
Oh, wow.
Bought it, and they gave it to I can't remember the name of the artist, but he was like an animation guy. And I had this really, if you picture in your head what, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing looked like, this guy said, he took my first issue and he said, well, I stretched out half of it. I took half of your first issue and stretched out to be one book. because I don't like to do more than 3 panels on a page.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Because he had
he's one of those guys.
He had this big animated, and he was professional,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't.
You didn't
It
launch
wasn't a
into him.
collaboration. It was
Yeah.
somebody. It was somebody just doing.
You didn't have to explain to him the idea of story pacing.
And I didn't know. I thought, hey, he's the artist. He's the guy that's doing this all the time. So
Yeah.
So it lasted 1 issue.
A half an issue, apparently.
Yeah, half an issue.
Yeah.
Half an issue. But I was submitting stuff everywhere to everybody. And I was selling short pieces to like Caliber Press and to Innovation. I mean, there were a bunch of players back then that were Eternity. There were opportunities
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you, Turtles, right?
Thank you, Turtles.
That's right.
Also, thank you, Direct Market and Diamond, because
Yes.
you could have that kind of weird explosion of growth.
You could. Yeah.
Actually,
We talked about this a
the
little bit.
biggest one back then was Capital City Distribution.
Yeah.
There, yes, because they were very big on independent comics.
Let me run through some comments here. I didn't have my tab open, and so we've missed them. So Aaron Moriarty says, "Hey y'all, what's up, Aaron?" He says, "I met Todd McFarlane at Toy Fair when he launched Spawn.
Did you fight him?
There's a hyphen between every word, so I had to try to say that with every with one
That was
breath.
all
right?
one word.
Well,
Yeah.
or you speak like William Shatner. I met Todd McFarlane. Toy Fair.
David Gutierrez says they're back, and that's got to be based on the
At-
timestamp here about
Atlas
Atlas.
Seaboard.
Yeah,
they are back. Not as comic book publishers, not yet.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be very cool. I guess I need to finish out my collection before they get back.
Before
right?
they get for the prices go through the roof.
Yeah, and then he says sometimes it pays to build something out of spite.
Yes, it does.
And then Thomas Flormonti says, "Sorry I couldn't make it today. Nice to see Barb. Thanks,
Yay!
Charles, for coming
Yay!
on.
It's a Floramonte flyby.
The Flormonti flyby." And then he says, "Y'all better not have talked bad about me."
Not bad. We just talked about you.
Yeah,
How you interpret it's up to you.
that's right.
That's right.
I tell him, of course, me and Tommy and Jose did a show yesterday. And so I told Tommy, because he said, I may not be there. I said, well, we're going to talk about you. And he just looked at me like, why do you got to tell me that every time? I said, because we do. We talk about
It's true.
you. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I have a question.
Go. Shoot.
Charles, my memory of how we got to work together is probably different than yours. So what do you got?
How we got to work together. I'll tell you my main memory was a good friend of all of ours, I think, Mitch Faust,
Yeah.
Yep.
who passed away last year.
Jeez, so sad.
Yep.
Sad. Was in my office one Thursday around lunchtime, I guess. He was just dropping in for a visit and wanted to show me some work he'd been doing. We'd known each other for quite a while, and he shows me this kick-ass cover he did for Planet of the Apes.
Right.
I said, man, I would love to write Planet of the Apes. He goes, I don't think they've got a writer yet. And I said, well, I've been doing some stuff with Tom Mason. I'm going to give him a holler. So I get on the phone and Tom says, I got good news and bad news. The good news is we haven't picked a writer. The bad news is that we're looking at proposals tomorrow and we're going to pick one tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if I get one to you, can I be in the pile? And he said, sure. So I shooed Mitch out of my office. I shut the door and I got to work. And luckily, FedEx is Memphis is the hometown for FedEx. So there's an office, FedEx location at the airport where you can drop stuff off at midnight for next day delivery. So that's
Wow.
there at 11:45. And had
This
that
is pre-internet, kids.
pre-internet,
Yes.
pre-email.
Everything was phone, fax, and FedEx back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sent me some paper. That's you
sent
sent
you
you
paper.
printed it out on paper and you sent it to me in an envelope.
I used to send you a floppy disk with scripts on it.
Yes, that's right. We
Yeah.
switched to that after a while.
After a while. Um,
And your proposal won.
my proposal won. It was. But without Mitch, it would have never happened. I would have been I wouldn't even known the opportunity was there. So,
So is this what you remember, Tom?
It's a little bit more exact than mine, but it is that Charles had heard about it, and because the thing is, there it is.
Still got original art from that. Wow.
Because the thing is that we had, I'm not sure if we had Kent Burles lined up yet as the artist. I know in the office we were thinking about him, but I'm not sure if we had signed him up officially. And a lot of this stuff we felt had to get approved by 20th Century Fox. So it wasn't really necessarily my decision as the editor, because there are people above me. And so, but I do remember, and again, this is another example of how to break into comics or how to get an assignment is Mitch was already working for me as an artist. You knew Mitch as your friend.
Yep.
Mitch mentioned something, and then you call me. And then because I'm dumb, I just answered the phone.
well, all the things that had to fall into place for that to happen really, it was.
Yeah.
It's fate, really. I mean, it's the kind of thing you couldn't have scripted that, like because those pieces sort of have to line up where Mitch just happens to come into your office the day before my deadline.
Right.
That's what people. That's the problem when people say, what's the secret to breaking in? You're like, well, there's no one secret. The secret is just make some comics and meet some people and don't be a jerk. Yeah.
Network, press the flesh, and be at the right place at the right time.
But also the thing that's true for this is that, I mean, all that's true, but Charles still had to write a proposal that got approved.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So it didn't. What it got you, all of that networking, all of that friendship, what that got you was access to my phone.
Right.
But your work is what then got you the work.
You still had to deliver the goods.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a two-part process.
That's what I tell people too, is that there's this whole lot of sweat that goes into this process that you don't see. I sent out hundreds of proposals. I threw out, and Tom knows this probably as much as anybody, because I threw stuff at him, constantly. I threw out the Mortal Kombat. I brought that to you, and when y'all decided to do it, you remembered that was the first one to mention it or to
that was the thing too, is that we weren't thinking about Mortal Kombat, but I think you pitched Mortal Kombat, and then we used your proposal to go out and get the Mortal Kombat license with the understanding that, hey, Charles, here's the deal.
Yeah.
We don't have it, so we obviously can't pay you. But if we go to the Mortal Kombat people and they give us the license, you got the job.
Yeah.
And so but again, the editor has to sort of keep that promise.
Right.
And also, Jesus.
That's my phone.
Oh, I thought you're making coffee. But that's sort of the weird partnership of comics too. It's like, well, we don't have the license. How can we get the license? Well, we need to get a writer. Charles is already interested. Charles has already brought it to us as like, hey, if you guys get the Mortal Kombat license, I'd like to write Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, well, get us a proposal.
Patrick Rollo too, wasn't it? And
oh my God, that guy.
Yeah.
So much energy in his work.
Believe it or not, I still talk to him some.
I've
cool.
talked to him.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's cool is that the thing about being a writer is that when you knew that the Planet of the Apes assignment was open, but only open for 24 hours, you still had to turn a proposal around in that 12-hour window. Yeah. It's like you couldn't just sit around and wait for the big idea to come into you. No. and be like, oh, it's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks. I'm a writer. I'm a genius. I can't possibly come up with something in 12 hours.
Asterisk editor's note. See the stream a couple of weeks ago about there's no such thing as writer's block.
That's right. You can't say, oh my, because here's the thing. If you can't come up with a proposal for Planet of the Apes in 12 hours, what good are you?
No, yeah.
Right.
It's apes, man. It writes itself.
It's true. It's true. A couple comments here. Hyper Potato says, I love Charles' work on apes. Hyper, thank you so much for swinging by. We love Hyper here.
Because that's the thing too, is that my memory is that you were interested in exploring stuff that wasn't the movies. Like you didn't want to rehash the movies. You wanted to go to places where the movies had left cracks.
Yeah.
And you were very interested in exploring the society of stuff.
Yeah, it was probably a little more ambitious than I was. I had the tools for, but it was great experience. I mean, doing that monthly book, and I remember the only time you got ticked off at me was I was pitching something new, and you said, "Well, Charles, you're kind of behind on your 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 current stuff." And I said, "Oh shit!" And I went in and I wrote four issues that weekend and had them in that Monday. Which actually, it's funny how sometimes, for me anyway, that deadline is more inspirational than anything. If you give me a month to do something, there's no guarantee it's going to be better than if you give me 24 hours.
But isn't it true that that's a fast pace from advertising and marketing too?
I came up in retail advertising for a department store, and we had multiple deadlines per day.
Right.
Like I'd have 4 deadlines a day, and it was, you just learned to crank from that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Hyper says, correction. It's the only time Charles knows that Tom got mad at him.
Yeah, that's true.
No,
That's
well, I
true.
think if you were a creator and I was mad at you, you knew.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
I'm not one of those hold it in kind of guys.
No.
That's
kids. Neither was he in the office.
no. Although I've had a lot of therapy, so I'm much better now.
You're a kinder, gentler Tom.
Kinder, gentler Tom.
Hyper says, like and subscribe, kids. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Hyper. Absolutely. Wherever you are listening to us right now, please like and subscribe and follow or whatever it is that you are listening. David A. Scutera says, what was the approval process from Fox Studios like? Did anything get rejected or have to change heavily?
So here's the thing, Mr. David Ace, because I've said this several times, and I say it on a panel. I do a licensing panel every year at San Diego, and I tell this same story, is that I'd been working on licensed comics for a while. I'd done the Robotech comics, I'd done some other comics, and they were all very specific. Like the Robotech guy, Carl Masek, and Harmony Gold were like, they had to approve everything down to the minute detail, because they were very and they weren't jerks about it, but they're just very protective of the license, and they want to see everything before it goes to print, so there's no surprises, and so we don't do anything wrong. I get all of that, because that's the rules of the game. They're the client necessarily, and I'm the worker. And so I thought, well, it's Planet of the Apes. It's 20th Century Fox. That's an even bigger corporation than Harmony Gold was. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to send them. I send them Charles pitches. I send them the scripts. I send them the pencils from Kent. I send them the inks from Barb. I send them the lettering that we put in. I send them the whole book so that they see everything is how it's going to look. I send them the covers. I send them the cover copy. I send them, what the inside front cover is going to look like so they can see the copyright notice. I send them the whole thing. And it goes one at a time. I'm sending stuff to them constantly. I get no response. And I don't feel right sending the book forward until I get that yes from 20th Century Fox, because I got to cover my butt too. And so eventually I get a phone call from the head of licensing or one of the people at licensing for 20th Century Fox. Why are you sending me all this stuff?
I don't remember any changes. Yeah.
And I said, well, because I'm doing the Planet of the Apes comic book, and you're the person who has to give me the approvals. I said, we don't need to see this stuff. And stop sending it. And I said, I'm going to need to see that in a writing. I'm going to need some kind of letter. I'm going to need something, because I can just walk over to Scott's desk and say, hey, Scott, we're good. We can do whatever we want. And then he's going to say, well, we're going to need that letter. So I got the letter and I stopped sending them stuff. And then they called up and said, hey, you want to do the Alienation license? And I said, is it the same approval process?
Yeah.
So because at the time we were doing Planet of the Apes, it's basically a dead license to 20th Century Fox. They didn't have a movie deal in place. They didn't have a TV show. There's no streaming. There's nothing at this time. So to them, it's like found money.
Yeah.
And they didn't really care. And comic book licensing had not yet become a thing like it is, like it would be like 5 years later.
Right.
So nobody really cared. So it was up to me to care and up to Charles to care.
Yeah. Yeah. Hyper says, I'm going to need to see that in writing on company letterhead, notarized.
That's right. Can I drive down and pick that up, please?
And just
Hyper, that's called CYA.
Yeah, and just so people know, that is not the standard license stuff. I mean, I worked on Star Trek stuff where they were just like, he would never say that. Oh, he would never say the word.
I'm working on a project right now out of Japan, and it's got to go through 7 people that all have to, a panel of 7 people to sign off on every single piece.
Well, I'll be brief about this because it's not about Charles, but I worked on the Street Fighter comic book, and I have in writing approvals at every level of the process from the Capcom people in Northern California. They approved cover, they approved story, they approved pitches, they approved everything. They approved the solicitation copy, they approved the contents of the comic book, they approved the coloring, everything. By the time we published the first issue, it turns out that they weren't the people who were supposed to be giving me the approvals. It was Capcom in Japan that was supposed to give me approvals, and they pulled everything. And I said, and Capcom Japan was like, what do you think you're doing? And I said, you know what? I got letters here from everybody at Capcom Northern California that says I'm a great guy. I've done everything. I've done everything possible. I'll be happy to share them with you. And I mean, so I covered everything, but they still ended the project.
Yeah.
So it can go, it can go any number of ways.
Yeah.
Mattel was super picky about Barbie too. 3 eyelashes. She only has 3 eyelashes.
3 eyelashes.
Like all women do.
Yeah. I don't remember to be honest with you. I don't remember too much about the BattleTech, because I talked with the guy straight at FOSSA, so I don't remember having too many issues with BattleTech either.
Well, I think they were more interested. They were more game people.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think as long as you didn't screw it up, they were just happy to have a comic.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. We got to play the game. I don't know if you remember that. Remember we went up to somewhere and spent a couple hours playing their new games that I don't think ever went out to the public, but they were so cool. You sat in them and had these big mechs.
Yeah.
So Charles, what was the first? Because you mentioned you'd done some Eternity stuff before pitching Apes to Tom. What was some of your early Eternity stuff? What was your first Malibu umbrella work? Eternity, Adventure, any of those? What was your first?
I guess it was some anthology book.
Was it Eternity Triple Action? Or was it
Shattered Earth?
Oh, Shattered Earth. Oh,
Shattered Earth. Oh.
The X Mutants Universe book.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize you did that.
Chris Alm was your editor.
Yeah, that would have been Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing that.
So I remember you did Strange Sports Stories with Mitch.
Strange Sports Stories, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with Mitch Bird.
Yep.
That was during the Planet of the Apes run.
That was disappointing. Okay. That there were a few that the Planet of the Apes Alien Nation crossover was kind of a dud. I mean, there were some that just like you think, man, that should have worked. I love Strange Sports Stories and the early ones, the DC ones. That was one of my favorites as a kid.
Now, didn't you also do? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you also do one of the DC Big Books?
No.
Okay.
Don't hurt his feelings, Roland.
No. I'm trying to. I got a lot of Charles Marshall written comics in my collection over here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
I did a lot of stuff for Caliber. I jumped around. I mean,
I know there were a handful of us that did stuff for both Caliber and Malibu, but they were two completely different companies.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but they weren't alike in any kind of way.
Did you see yourself as building a career as a comic book writer, or were these just things that you did because you were freelancing?
That was that was my plan during the, I guess when Mortal Kombat was rolling, I was making more writing comics than I was as a creative director at a good sized ad agency. And actually that allowed me to take 6 months off to start the business. I could go without getting paid for 6 months before we could, get established. And, really my thought process at the time was I could have it all. I could do everything. I can have, we just started a family. So I can be a father. I can start a business. I can write comic books. We immediately signed a big casino client. And casino marketing is like a whole different animal. They're like super needy. I mean, they just do so much stuff. It was just, we had to hire dozens of people right out of the gate. And I didn't realize, what a drain that was going to be. So just all my free time got sucked away. I was used to having several hours a day to just do what I wanted to do. And that just went away in a heartbeat. So
kids will do that too, by the way.
And then I get home,
Just saying, as a parent of two boys, you think, oh, I'll have plenty of time to work while they're sleeping or while they're taking a nap or whatever. It's like, no, you won't have that time.
Peter Clint is learning that right now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a new dad, fantastic artist over in the UK, Charles. And he's
I've
learning
seen
that
his
right
work.
now.
It's great, but you come to realize that time is just the resource that you don't have enough of.
He lives in England, and we talked to him during his 2 a.m. feeding with his with his baby.
Often Luna makes an appearance as well with him.
Yeah, that's right. She's being fed.
He used to look like he was 21. The last time we saw him, he looked like he was about 35.
Yeah, and lived outdoors.
Yeah.
And by the way, hi Peter, in case you're listening.
That's right. So what did you do for Caliber? Do you remember?
The big thing I did was a book with a artist buddy of mine called Greg Cravens, called Fugitive. It was about
I have that too.
Yeah, it was a cop chasing a serial killer through all these old TV shows. So each story was set in a different TV show. So this week they'll be on Gilligan's Island, and he'll kill all the characters. And I thought that was gold. I mean, I really thought that was going to be.
That's a TV pitch, by the way.
I know, right?
That's a TV pitch. You ought to figure out how to get that over to a producer that works with Netflix.
Yeah,
you might want to bring that. You might want to bring that comic book back as well. We know. Shoot, I can't point the right way. We know a publisher that could be interested in that, right?
Yeah, we do. We know that's a really great take.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. But I think it got lost in, Caliber was just churning so much stuff.
Yes,
they were trying to repeat, they hit it out of the park with Crow.
Yeah.
Right.
And they said, let's make another Crow. But they just
speaking as someone
shotgun.
Yeah.
Speaking as someone who worked for a publisher that kept trying to make another version of a hit, it ain't easy.
No, it's not. You don't know why. Yeah. You don't know why something works and why, I think that Ape Nation, that was a beautiful book.
Should have worked.
Should have worked. I mean, everything, if I don't know.
And we did everything possible that we could think of to try to make that work. And it just didn't work. I mean, I don't know. I still looked at it. It just, I don't know. No, we had it's so.
Hyper says, bring back Fugitive. I love Fugitive. I have forgotten Charles did that. Yeah.
There you go.
We're your memory today, Hyper.
That's right. It's
shoot, I was going to ask something before the next thing. What were you saying, Tom? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about David's question.
Okay, well, hold on that one. Yeah.
All right.
Crap, I had another thing I was going to ask, but
I'm going to pop out, you guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Barb?
Very nice to meet
Barb,
you.
do you have any burning questions you want to ask before you pop out?
Yeah,
Ask it.
are you? I don't know if you're retired or not.
I'm
You're
not.
not?
I'm
Right.
semi, I guess.
All right. It's time to jump in. That's what I did when I retired. I jumped right back into comics, and I've been doing full time now again.
I've been recruiting hard.
Don't spoil. No spoilers, please.
Yep.
Yeah.
That way, it keeps you sharp in your retirement. Gives you
There you go.
something to do.
And the good news is you don't have to work for me anymore.
All right. It was great to see you guys.
Thanks,
Good to see you,
Barb.
Barb. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I forgot what it was I was going to say as well. So we're going to go ahead and go to David's question. He says, "What's the favorite book or issue you've written? What's book number one in the Marshall Library?"
Gosh, I don't know. I was really, I went on a Mortal Kombat podcast last year, and I had to go back and reread all those things, but I knew they were going to ask me questions. And I go, like, what were you thinking when you, what did this character, they were going to ask me really, I watched, I listened to their podcast. I knew they were like super nerd,
Right.
technical questions. So I had to go back and reread them all. And I'm like, I don't hate all these. There were, especially some of the finale issues. I thought they really held up pretty well in the Goro miniseries. I really liked. I just thought some of that stuff. I think I was getting better. The more you do this stuff,
Just right, the better you get.
Right.
get.
Yeah.
And
You learn how it works and how to
you
do
learn
it.
what works, what doesn't work, and you know.
Also, I think, again, not to diminish your abilities as a writer, but I think it helps that Mortal Kombat has an engine that drives
Right.
what they can and can't do, and I think that gives you a leg up in terms of figuring out story.
There were a couple of in the last run that 4-issue arc that I wrote over a weekend for Planet of the Apes. I thought was really nice too. It was about a group of astronauts that go back to the Planet of the Apes, but it was less about apes and all about people. So
right. But I think that those are the best Planet of the Apes stories.
Yeah.
Even if the apes are apes, they're still people. And in terms of the way you think about their relationships,
right,
and their emotional core.
It's the way we read them.
Yeah.
Hyper said, "Bring back Fugitive." Then he says, "I'll even say Woo Pig more often if Silverline snags Fugitive." You can tell Hyper knows me there. Tommy said, "Good to see y'all. Well, we miss you, Tommy. Have fun at Epcot. Don't break anything." Hyper says, "I'll be 52 in a couple of months. Me no remember as good no more."
Man, doesn't get better.
Now, I remember, and I don't remember who did it. I don't remember if this is something you did. I don't remember who published it, but I remember something you did called Batch. Remember that?
Batch
was the comic strip.
Yeah. I did with Greg again.
That was you and Greg, yeah.
It was kind of I guess he was a 20-something guy, and we sold them in college papers. We had them in about, I don't know, 30 or 40 college papers at a time.
Wow.
For a while it ran in Comics Buyer's Guide.
Right.
So is that where the primary publication of it was? The Comic Buyer's Guide, CBG was running it?
We just got them. I don't know how we got them to do it. I don't remember. Probably didn't charge them.
Well, Don and Maggie are both pretty cool.
Yeah, they were cool. I think we turned him into a comic book artist at that point to get him in there. And then I read in the trade mags that one of the, I don't know, some syndicate is coming out with a comic strip called Batch.
Oh.
So I called him out and said, well, we've already done this. We're already doing Batch. And he goes, well, sorry, but we're doing it.
Our lawyers are bigger than your lawyers.
I sent him like all these clips of it appearing in, all these different papers. And then he's come back and they go, we'll pay you $2,000 for the name. And Greg and I looked at each other and said, all right.
Really?
So that was it. We did produce one shot for Caliber.
That's what I think I remember.
Collected all of them. It was a cute little book.
Yeah.
I think you pitched that to me as well.
Probably. I pitched stuff. That's why I said if you were an editor in the 80s and 90s, you might go, oh man, this asshole send me something. I mean, I was sending stuff nonstop. Like I said, that was the part of it I think I enjoyed more than anything. I was never afraid to, and I would show up. I mean, I showed up at DC. I'd meet with anybody that'd meet with me. I mean, go to Marvel. I'd go to, go to the convention. I was late to conventions, I think. I didn't even, that just wasn't on my radar for some reason. And I wish it had been, because I think it would have changed the arc of my career.
I think for anybody who's trying to break into comics, I think conventions are essential, especially nowadays. I mean, they were always essential, but I think more so now, because you can't just do it online. You can't just do it through social media. You can't just do it on Twitter. You got to be out there, because people like to work with people that they like.
Yeah.
So it's, and you never know where your friends are going to wind up. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean,
well, and I say to this day that the reason that Malibu hired me on staff was because, number one, they knew me already, and number two, I got to hang out with Alm when he came to Atlanta. I went to Atlanta Dragon Con, and we hung out for that weekend, and that's when he got to talking about some of the plans, and I said, why don't you just hire me? Right. And that was two weeks later, I got the call. So,
and we also knew you as a publisher. Like we knew you were like one of those, like in sports, in baseball, there's like a 5-tool player.
Yeah.
And in comics, you were a writer, you were an editor, you were a packager, you were a publisher, you dealt with printers, you dealt with distributors before. So even though we weren't hiring you for that stuff, you understood all those pieces and how they play out.
How the machine works.
Yeah. And that to me, that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Also, you're fairly even tempered, whereas I'm the opposite.
Yeah. Now, Charles, you said you pitched stuff to Mark at Marvel. Did you ever do anything with Marvel? Did you ever do anything with DC?
No, I did. I mean, I did that one Devil Dinosaur story that.
Did it come out?
It came out. He rewrote it. I again, it was a terrible time for me. And I had this brilliant idea. I had to do something to stand out. This was a book. I mean, it was like a little anthology, I think, of like, I don't know, 6 or 7 short stories. So I decided that I'm going to do a story that with no dialogue and no cap.
Brilliant writer.
Too smart for my own good. I mean, I really thought it through and got it, figured out. Well, then he, goes, well, people don't really like that. So he added dialogue. I know. I again,
there's a reason they don't do that.
That's right. That's not done. I don't know.
That's the other thing too.
I was in an experimental phase.
But that's the thing about pitching comics is you can't be so different.
Right.
That, I mean, it's you can look at stuff in the industry that the industry won't do this kind of book. I'm going to do this kind of book. And then you learn, well, there's a reason that people have come before you and tried to do that kind of book. And the audience doesn't respond. So it may be artistic and it may be satisfying and it may be the right thing, but the audience never responds.
But to his credit, he didn't he said, everybody has a clunker. But he offered me another something else. I want to say it was Jack of Hearts, but like a one shot or a mini series or something. And I was literally working on like an hour of sleep a day. I mean, it was like, I just couldn't do it. And I said, I got to know this is the time to hang it up.
And you didn't go
and
back.
Once that train, it's like you get off a train and say, I'd like to get back on this train. Well, it's moving awful fast. So how do you get back on it? I mean, I actually pitched him some stuff. I had some ideas for, like special projects or more comic stuff. That just didn't really even get a response from him. I mean, if I reach out and say, hey, Mark, how's it going? I get a response, but if I send him, here's a proposal, it's silent. So. So
yeah. Well, I think, like Tom said earlier, today it's a much different game there at Marvel and DC today. You pretty much have to be invited.
No, absolutely.
They pick their people now.
Where the fun is, and again, Roland will slap me down because I might get this wrong, but I think where the fun is really, I mean, there's no money anymore.
Yeah.
But where the fun is in the independent comics, because if you want to do something experimental like you were talking about, that's the place to do it. It may still not succeed. The audience may still not respond, but you need a smaller response.
Right.
There is a way to do it. I mean, there is a way to get money out of it. We've been talking about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So, I just sold a book project to Invisalign this year that we made a fortune on. So, I mean, there's ways to still do publishing stuff that
yes,
it's just not yesterday's way.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
you can do your captionless, wordless book.
Get that out of my system, Tom.
That's right. Finally, Charles Marshall's dream is come true.
Now my new idea is the imageless comics.
That's right.
Yeah. You know what we call those wordless books in my class, Charles?
Yeah.
Picture books.
Yeah.
Picture books. That's right.
No pictures, no words.
No words. That's right.
Then
we're putting everybody out of business.
Yeah. That's a DIY book, right? Here it is. So let's talk about this then. Have you written other stuff, right? You got any novels? You got any other non-comic stuff that Charles Marshall fans like Hyper Potato can look for?
Probably not Al. I mean, the things we've done have been more. Let me see. This was the book that we sold for.
Yeah.
All the Best Faces Wear Braces. It's a book of.
Greg
actually drew it for. It's a book of little short, cute little poems.
Yeah.
That we do for orthodontists. It's customized for orthodontist offices.
Yeah.
And then we sold the idea to Invisalign this year to do their own book. So we're doing that kind of stuff. I've worked on novels, hadn't been able to sell anything. As I've getting more free time, I'm looking for more creative outlets, know.
Well, there's never been so you and I were doing independent comics back when, if you did not hook up with a publisher, it was really tough to do because you had that minimum print run of, 3,000 copies that you had to do. Today, the print on demand changes the game. Now, because I know you know about this kind of stuff, it ups your per unit cost, right? So your per unit cost is higher. But it's a whole lot easier to do. You can make, if you can produce the work, you can make it happen. And I gotta say, dude, novels are the same way.
Right.
Yeah, because we talked to Barry Gregory. Well, Roland talks to Barry Gregory all the time, but I've talked to Barry Gregory, and he's having great success with his own self-published novels.
Yeah.
That I would say, and it's funny because they're just as good as anything else being published, if not better. But he couldn't get a mainstream publisher.
Nope.
But he's doing better for himself.
And he keeps it all, and he keeps he doesn't have to worry about the rights. He controls the rights, and he gets all the money. What little or what great amount there is, he gets to keep it all. So
yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Okay.
No, there's so many more paths to success now than there ever was back then. That it's crazy.
So Hyper has a question that he almost asks every single guest that comes on here. Right. So here it is. He says, who does Charles think is the most underrated character in comics, and why is it Sergeant Rock?
That's underrated. I've been on a binge lately of the Crime Syndicate. I loved all the Earth 3 reverse Justice League characters. I think that is just what Grant Morrison did with that was just so much fun. But I love the characters I love the underrated characters. I mean, that's when I was pitching stuff, it was always characters that nobody had any use for. And then, when I did get like I sent was it Airwave for DC? They finally brought him back, I think. I sent a proposal, and the editor wrote back and said, "Why the hell would we want to pick?"
Right. The thing is because the weird thing about DC is that they don't have a deep bench. Like you go Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, then it's Green Arrow, Green Lantern, the Atom, Hawkman, Flash, all second tier characters, and then it's like 100 characters who are like, what?
Right.
Who were created by old white guys in the 30s and 40s that nobody cares about.
I came so close to selling a Batman. It was packaging a Two-Face coin, printing an actual Two-Face coin and packaging it with a one-shot story.
Oh, come on.
They tried to buy the idea from me, and I said, "Look, I don't need." He offered me like, I don't know, it was more than $1,000. I said, I don't need $1,000. I need a DC credit.
I want to write the book. Yeah,
I want to do the job.
Yeah, I want to do the book. Yeah. And he just,
come on, Two-Face coin though.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Hyper says more creative outlets like say Silverline.
Well, Roland and I know a company that makes coins.
That's right.
Yeah, we make.
Yeah. Well, my clock tells me it's 1:15. Charles, what else? What else you wanna say to folks who've been wondering where you've been the past 20 years or so? I guess it's been longer than that. 20.
It's been longer than that because
years.
My business lasted for 25 years.
I do have one other thing I want to ask you about. Can you tell me what's the word for it? What was the score sheet for the Image versus Malibu basketball game? They beat Malibu like a drum. They did. And the thing about it is, so a lot of people don't know, and I don't remember which year this was. It had to have been 93, probably, is my guess. Yeah. 1 year at San Diego, Malibu and Image played each other in basketball. What we were doing with the idea was that, and I don't know if they still do it. I'm assuming they do. I don't know. But Marvel and DC used to have a softball game, in New York. So we're like, hey, we're in California. Let's do something different. So Malibu and Image had a basketball game. Now, no offense to any of those guys on the Image team, but they all came out and they were like, 4'5", and the Malibu guys were like, man, we're gonna beat the crap out of them. Those guys were so fast, and they could drop the 3-pointers like crazy. It was embarrassing.
Because you forget that people in California can play basketball year round, right. and not indoors. They don't have to go indoors. There's a basketball court on every corner.
It was crazy. Malibu.
Well, it would have been. I don't know. It was. We had too many. You had too many players on the Malibu team, and you couldn't get any kind of continuity. It was right. It was funny.
Yeah,
where Malibu
had nicer cars.
where Malibu excelled was softball. Malibu had its own softball team.
We did.
It was quite good.
Yes, and I played on that. I set the bench on the basketball game, but I played on the softball team. So,
but you're tall though. You're taller than me. You're over 6.
Oh yeah. Charles
over 6, and I think Roland, you're over 6 too, aren't you? Or 6'1", are you?
Yeah, I'm 6'3". Yeah,
6'3". Yeah, because you tower over me.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like a dwarf next to you.
Hyper says, "How dare you, Tom? There are at least 9 of us, including Charles, who likes Airwave."
Well, good luck to you, because 9 copies is still 9 copies. You're not going to break royalties.
That's right. That's right. All right, Charles, can you be found on social media anywhere if anybody wants to find you?
Not in the least.
Well, here I might suggest that could be a problem.
I might.
No, yes. I try to stay off of it.
Yeah. It does help. Social media does help. All of it. The problem is it does have it. It helps to promote your work. Yep. Well, so anything else, Charles?
No, I appreciate the convo. It's been fun catching up.
Good.
Yeah, same here. It's been good to see you again, Charles.
Yeah, take care, Tom.
We'll have to have you back sometime in the future. If you want to hang out for a few minutes as we wrap the show up. Tom, you got anything for close out of here?
No, I mean, I haven't, because of the way my life works too. I haven't talked to Charles in, what is it, 30 years.
30 years.
It's been great catching up. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Always good to hear your voice. On Tuesday, that Silverline show on Tuesday, talk about how to draw monster anatomy. The crew discusses how to draw monsters in comics. That's on Tuesday. Wednesday, the Wednesday Whammers are going to be back, and they're going to talk about pet peeves, comic art and writing trends, tropes, and misspellings that irritate you. And next week, we will be here with our favorite comics. The Silver Sunday crew talk about their favorite comics, and they bring receipts. We're going to bring you examples of our favorite comics. Tune in next week and make sure that you tell us yours. We already know that Hypers is Sergeant Rock, and I bet he has receipts with that as well. So, All right. So thank you all for hanging out with us. We will see you next time, and until then, remember to
make mine Silverline.
Mine Silverline. Good night, everyone.
Hey, I'm G-Rod. Make mine Silverline. You heard me.